The storm raged across the frozen world. Snow and ice lashed against the mountains. The sky was dark with swirling clouds, the air cut like knives. A human soldier named Daniel stumbled through the endless white. His ship had crashed hours ago. His body shook from the cold. His breath turned to mist the moment it left his lips. He wrapped his arms around himself, his boots crunching through deep snow. Every step was heavy. His body begged him to stop. But he knew stopping meant death. He searched for anything, rocks, caves, even wreckage that could shield him from the storm. His eyes blurred, his vision dimming. Then he saw it. A faint shadow in the distance, a dark hole in the side of a mountain. He forced his legs forward, slipping, falling, pushing again until he reached the mouth of the cave. He stumbled inside. The roar of the storm muffled instantly. The air was still cold, but compared to outside, it felt like salvation. Daniel collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. His hands were numb. His skin burned from frostbite. He closed his eyes for a moment, whispering, "Safe. At least for now." But when he opened them again, he realized he was not alone. At the far side of the cave sat a figure, wrapped in a dark, insulated sleeping bag that glowed faintly with alien tech. Silver hair spilled across green skin that shimmered under the dim light. Her eyes, bright, glowing emerald, watched him silently. She was not human. She was an alien girl. Daniel froze. His body stiffened. His hand instinctively reached for the small blade strapped to his side. But she did not move to attack. She only tilted her head slightly, studying him with quiet curiosity. The silence stretched long, broken only by the drip of melting ice at the cave's entrance. Finally she spoke, her voice soft but clear. "You will not survive out there alone." Daniel narrowed his eyes. His voice cracked from the cold. "And what makes you care?" Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "I do not care," she said calmly, "but I know death when I see it." She shifted slightly inside her glowing bag, warmth radiating from it. "You are freezing. Human bones are not strong in this climate." Daniel clenched his jaw. His pride told him to refuse, but his body trembled violently. He had minutes, maybe an hour before the cold claimed him. He stared at her, unsure if this was a trap, unsure if she meant to save him or lure him. The alien girl tilted her head again. Her glowing eyes softened. "Share," she said simply. She tapped the space beside her inside the sleeping bag. "Or die." The words echoed in Daniel's mind. He felt his chest tighten. Was this a trick? Was she playing with him? He swallowed hard. His instincts screamed caution, but the cold screamed louder. He staggered a step closer. His knees nearly gave out. He steadied himself on the cave wall. His breath came out in sharp gasps. The alien girl's gaze followed his every move, calm, patient. She did not lift a weapon. She did not move to strike. Daniel stopped just before her. His heart pounded. His blade still in his hand, he met her eyes, searching for malice. But all he found was calm certainty. She looked at him as though his choice was already made. Slowly, with shaking hands, Daniel lowered his blade. His pride fought against his need for survival. But his body was losing. He exhaled, then whispered, "Fine." The alien girl's faint smile returned. She opened the sleeping bag wider, warmth spilling out like a wave. Daniel's body craved it instantly. His teeth chattered as he slid closer. The glow of the alien tech surrounded him as he entered. The heat wrapped around his frozen limbs. His shaking began to ease for a moment. Silence filled the cave again. The storm howled outside, but inside there was only the sound of two different beings breathing side by side. Daniel dared to glance at her again, up close now. He noticed the delicate patterns glowing faintly on her green skin, like lines of living light. She noticed his gaze but did not look away. Instead she whispered, "You humans are strange. Even at death's door, you hesitate." Daniel let out a weak chuckle. "We call it being careful." Her eyes glimmered with quiet amusement. "Or stubborn," she said. The warmth spread through his body. He closed his eyes for a moment, breathing deeply, maybe both. He whispered, and as the storm raged outside, Daniel realized the danger was no longer only the cold, it was the alien girl beside him. The one who had offered warmth when the universe offered death, the one whose motives he could not yet understand. The cave grew darker as night fell, and the tension between them grew heavier. The human soldier and the alien girl were no longer enemies of war. They were two lives forced together in the frozen world, and whatever would happen next began here, in the warmth of a shared survival. The cave was quiet except for the distant roar of the storm outside. The glow from the alien sleeping bag lit the small space with a soft green-yellow hue. Daniel sat stiffly inside it, pressed close to the alien girl. He could feel the warmth seeping into his frozen body, slowly driving away the numbness. At first, his mind raced with suspicion. He was a soldier, trained to distrust. She was alien, trained to hate his kind. What if this was some trick? What if she planned to lower his guard and then strike? His hand rested near his side where his blade was hidden beneath the thermal layer. Yet as the minutes passed, she did not move against him. She simply sat still, her glowing eyes half closed as if the storm outside was of no concern. Daniel tried to steady his breath. His body trembled less now, but his heart beat faster. The closeness was unnatural. For a moment, he considered speaking, but the silence stretched heavy between them. Finally, the alien girl broke it. Her voice was soft, smooth, carrying the strange rhythm. "You humans always look so fragile in the cold." Daniel turned his head slightly. "And you don't." Her lips curved faintly. "No, my people were born on a world of ice. Our bodies learned to survive the freeze. The cold is a friend, not an enemy." Daniel gave a weak laugh. "Wish I could say the same." He pulled the sleeping bag tighter around his shoulders. "Where I come from, cold is just misery." She glanced at him curiously. "Earth," she said. Pronouncing the word carefully, he nodded. "Yes, Earth." There was silence again, but this time not hostile. It felt cautious, as though each word had weight. Daniel studied her out of the corner of his eye. She was beautiful in a way that unsettled him. Her glowing skin reflected the light like polished stone. Her silver-white hair shimmered with faint frost. She seemed unreal, and yet here she was, sharing her only source of warmth with him. Her gaze shifted back to him. "Why do you fight?" "In our war," she asked. "Why risk death on a world that is not your own?" Daniel hesitated, his voice lowered. "Because we didn't choose it. The war came to us. My people fight to survive." Her eyes softened for a brief moment. "Survive," she repeated, as though testing the word. Then she looked away. "We are taught that humans are reckless, destructive, loud, and yet..." She trailed off, her voice fading. Daniel leaned slightly. "And yet," he pressed. She shook her head. "And yet you sit here, freezing to death, still refusing to surrender to it." Her voice carried something between wonder and disbelief. He smirked faintly. "We're stubborn like that." Her lips curved again. Not quite a smile, but close. She adjusted the sleeping bag slightly, shifting closer. Daniel stiffened, but then relaxed when he felt the added warmth she noticed, and tilted her head. "Do humans always resist comfort?" Daniel let out a slow breath. "No, but we're not used to getting it from people who should be our enemies." The alien girl's expression grew unreadable. Her glowing eyes studied him in silence. At last she whispered, "Perhaps the storm does not care for enemies or allies. It kills both the same." Daniel thought about her words. He realized she was right. The war outside meant nothing here. The storm was the true enemy. The cold had nearly killed him, and without her, it still might. Minutes stretched into hours. The storm outside refused to calm. The cave grew darker as the night deepened. Daniel's body finally stopped shaking, warmth returning to his limbs. But the closeness between them remained strange, heavy with tension. At one point, his shoulder brushed hers. He froze, expecting her to recoil, but instead, she stayed still. Her gaze lowering, her cheeks glowed faintly brighter than before. Daniel spoke softly. "Thank you." She turned to him. her glowing eyes locking with his. For what? For saving me. She looked away quickly, her voice quiet. I only gave you space to survive, nothing more. But her tone betrayed her. She was not as indifferent as her words suggested. Daniel smiled faintly in the dim light. He leaned back, resting his head against the cave wall. Whatever the reason, I'm still alive because of you. The alien girl closed her eyes, her breath slow. Her heart beat faster than she wanted to admit. She told herself it was the warmth, the strange situation, the storm. But in truth, it was something else. Something about the human's words. His eyes, his stubborn will to survive. Outside, the storm howled louder. Snow and wind battered the cave entrance. Yet inside, in the glow of the sleeping bag, a fragile bond had begun. Neither of them spoke again, but neither of them moved away, and as Daniel drifted toward uneasy rest, he realized the warmth was no longer just physical. It was something deeper, something unspoken. And whatever happened when the storm ended, nothing would be the same. The storm outside showed no sign of ending. The wind howled against the cave walls, carrying snow that rattled like sand against stone. Inside, the glow of the alien sleeping bag kept both of them alive. Daniel rested with his back against the wall, his eyes half open. Lyra, the alien girl, sat still beside him, her glowing skin faint in the dim light. For hours, silence stretched between them. Yet it was not the silence of strangers anymore. It was heavy, filled with unspoken thoughts. Daniel watched the way her silver hair shimmered faintly, how her eyes flickered whenever she thought he was not looking. She carried herself with calm pride, but he sensed something beneath, a weight she tried to hide. Finally he spoke, his voice low. You said the cold is your friend. She turned her head, her green eyes meeting his. Yes, she replied. My people were born in it. We do not fear it. Daniel tilted his head. Then why were you alone, left to freeze in this cave? Her breath caught. For a moment, she said nothing. Her fingers tightened around the edge of the sleeping bag. Her gaze dropped to the floor. Because my squad left me, Daniel frowned. Left you, he echoed. Why? She hesitated. Her voice grew softer. They called me weak, they said. I slowed them down. They chose to continue without me. I was left as unnecessary. Daniel felt anger stir in his chest. He had fought in human squads. He knew the bond of soldiers. To abandon one of their own was unthinkable. That doesn't sound like weakness, he said firmly. That sounds like cruelty. Lyra's lips trembled faintly. She did not look at him. Her voice was distant. In our ranks there is no room for mistakes, no room for hesitation. Perfection is demanded. Anyone less than perfect is discarded. Daniel's jaw tightened. Then they're fools. Her eyes shot back to him, surprise flashing across her face. Fools, she repeated. Yes, Daniel said, his tone sharp. Because perfection doesn't win wars. It's survival. It's loyalty. It's fighting for the one beside you. That's what keeps people alive. Lyra stared at him. Her chest rose and fell faster. She had been called cursed, weak, unwanted. But never had someone called her squad fools for abandoning her. A strange warmth spread inside her chest, though she tried to push it away. You speak boldly for someone dying in the snow hours ago, she whispered. Daniel smirked faintly. Maybe. But being alive now means I was right to be stubborn. Lyra's cheeks glowed faintly brighter. She looked away quickly, hiding her reaction. For so long she had carried her shame in silence. And now here was a human soldier, enemy calling her strong. His words struck her harder than the storm ever could. The cave grew quiet again. But the weight between them had shifted. Daniel leaned back, closing his eyes. So, he muttered softly, you were abandoned. I was shot down. Guess we both ended up in the same hole. Lyra turned her gaze toward him, her lips pressed tightly. You were shot down? She asked. Daniel opened one eye. Yeah, enemy fire. Took out my transport. I barely made it out before it burned. No radio, no comms. I'm stranded." She studied him silently. His voice carried no self-pity, only simple truth. She understood then. He too carried hidden struggles. He too knew what it meant to be left behind. The storm outside roared louder, yet inside the cave something softer grew. Not trust, not yet, but recognition. They were enemies, yes, but they were also survivors. Both discarded in different ways, Lyra whispered almost to herself. Two broken lives, sharing one warmth. Daniel chuckled quietly. Sounds about right, her lips curved into the faintest smile before she quickly looked away, embarrassed. Daniel caught it, but said nothing. His smirk stayed as he leaned his head back. For the first time since crashing, the fear of death eased from his chest. Lyra closed her eyes too, her body still tense but her heart less heavy. The storm had forced them together, but the truth of their hidden struggles bound them more than either wanted to admit. And as the night deepened, the cave carried not only the sound of the storm, but the fragile beginnings of a bond that neither enemy soldiers nor frozen winds could easily break. The storm raged on through the night, but by morning the winds softened. Snow still swirled at the cave's mouth, but it no longer screamed like knives against stone. Daniel opened his eyes slowly, his body stiff but alive. Warmth still lingered from the alien sleeping bag. He turned his head and found Lyra already awake. Her glowing eyes watched the entrance, her expression unreadable. "Still alive," Daniel muttered, his voice rough. Lyra turned to him and gave a faint nod. "Barely," she whispered. He shifted, pulling himself free of the shared warmth. Instantly the cold bit at him. He clenched his teeth. "We can't stay here forever," he said. "We'll need water. Maybe food." Lyra tilted her head, her silver-white hair catching the dim glow. "There is ice, melt it." Daniel raised his brows. "And fire?" he asked. "Do you have that in your magic bag?" Her lips curved faintly. "No fire, but we can build." She pointed to the broken scraps near the cave wall, fragments of his crashed transport, scattered by the storm. Together they began gathering. Daniel's fingers numb as he stacked metal shards and wiring. Lyra used her sharper strength to break frozen branches carried in by the winds. Soon they had a small pile. Daniel struck his blade against stone until sparks caught the dry fibers. Slowly, a small fire flickered to life. The warmth spread through the cave. Daniel leaned closer, sighing with relief. Lyra placed a shard of metal above the flames and set ice upon it. Slowly it melted, dripping into a container. Daniel watched her carefully. "You've done this before." Her eyes stayed on the fire. "I survived alone for many nights before you came," she said quietly. "I learned what was needed." His chest tightened. He could imagine her here, alone in the freezing dark, abandoned by her own. Her strength amazed him. But he also saw the loneliness in her eyes. Hours passed as they worked. They gathered more ice, stored melted water, and rationed a few scraps of dried alien food Lyra carried. Daniel made jokes about the taste, grimacing with each bite. "This tastes like frozen leather," he said. Lyra's lips twitched into the faintest smile. As they worked, something shifted between them. The silence was no longer heavy. It was filled with small words, small actions. Daniel showed her how humans tied knots and cords. She showed him how her people used crystal shards as tools. Piece by piece, their survival became teamwork. At one point, while moving a heavy rock to block the draft, Daniel slipped. His hands froze against the ice. Before he could pull away, Lyra's hands grabbed his, steadying him. Her grip was strong but gentle. Heat pulsed through him despite the cold. Their eyes met for a moment too long. He cleared his throat quickly, pulling back. "Thanks." Her cheeks glowed faintly brighter. "Do not fall again," she muttered. Fire crackled, melting the silence. For the first time since the crash, Daniel felt less like a soldier stranded behind enemy lines, and more like a man simply trying to live another day. Lyra felt it too, though she refused to admit it. That evening, as the storm began to rise again, They sat closer to the fire, sharing the warmth of both flame and the alien bag. Daniel leaned back against the wall. "Funny," he said softly. "A day ago we were enemies, now we're building fires together." Lyra's eyes flickered toward him. Her voice was soft, almost hesitant. "Perhaps survival does not care for war." Daniel smirked faintly. "Maybe survival just wants us to stop being stubborn." She tilted her head, studying him. His words confused her, but they also felt true. For so long she had believed humans were reckless. But this one, though reckless in his own way, carried a strength that drew her closer. The night deepened. The storm howled louder outside, but inside the cave there was warmth. Firelight flickering against stone. Two survivors sat together, no longer enemies, but not yet friends. Something fragile lingered between them, stronger than the storm and heavier than silence. Daniel whispered to himself before sleep, "Survival together, that's the only way." He closed his eyes, not realizing Lyra had heard every word. Her heart trembled. She turned to the fire, whispering softly in her own language, "Yes, together."